All right, so another week has gone by, and I've been kind of piddling all week. I did end up mounting my transmission cooler, put the grill back in. Just the same brackets that I had last time. I ended up putting some, there we go, I put some holes in it. I call them speed holes. I can get that to focus there. To allow a little bit of air to flow through that bracket, since it's 1.5 inches wide. So I just put some holes in there. I ended up picking up a drill press. Actually off of Facebook Marketplace this past week, and put it to use. Put some holes in this, so everything went to plan. So everything's mounted. I got it painted, say low gloss black. That's that engine paint I like to use. It's got that ceramic in it, so I painted that and mounted that. I've got my lines all run. I'm actually going to focus on getting the lines mounted. I have got everything kind of sorted along the truck here, and I'll kind of go over it as I'm doing it. I've got the wiring kind of sort of figured out. I've got the fuel lines, the trans lines, everything just needs to be mounted. I've kind of got everything loosely mounted, but I'll kind of go over that again as I do it. So the plan today is just kind of keep chipping away at the list. Battery cables are in, and I'll show those. I got the side post battery cables. There's some AC Delco battery cables. I'll put the part numbers down there in the description as well for that. But today it's just going to be kind of a lot of little stuff to kind of get the process going. It's dirty under here. Just kind of keep things going so I can finish this up. My list is getting shorter and shorter, so that's all that's left on my list, which is not much. Most of it, honestly, is torquing down suspension bolts that have not been done. I need to check the alignment of the rear end to make sure it's square with the truck. I think, if I remember correctly, the driver's side was like an 1/8 inch rear, or the passenger side was a 1/4 inch forward. I just need to figure out which way it is and pull it, and then tighten down the U-bolts to get that thing squared up with the truck. Torque down the panhard bar, which I've actually left it loose because I need to put the cover on the diff. I need to seal the cover on the diff and torque it down, and then put everything back on in the pan. So I'm just gonna start chipping away at some of that stuff today, and try to video as much as I can, kind of how I'm doing it. I know everybody wants some more detail and kind of how-to on some of this stuff, but some of it is just it's hard to film. But I'm gonna try my best to do what I can and kind of show you what I'm doing on this build. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get set up and start going from there. Well, I don't know what I did for the last 4 hours, but I managed to eat up 4 hours, and I don't feel like I got anything done. I mean, I feel like I did, but I don't know. Anyway, I tried to film some of this stuff, but it was just impossible. Basically what I did today was tidy up all of my lines for both the fuel and the transmission. So I've got them with these insulated brackets right here. Right now, that one's actually good, but I just kind of like I'm not really a pro, but a pro tip here is I go and buy this thing here from Harbor Freight. Things like $8 for this whole set, and I use these for just mock-up and just for determining bolt lengths and whatnot. So right now I have all of the lines for the transmission are using these bolts because I need to go buy proper bolts for those. So they're just really easy. They have tiny little nuts. The tolerances are loose, so they screw on real easy. But anyway, I have got all of the lines, and everything is good to go and routed. The lines over here, the fuel lines, the supply and return, are good to go. They are mounted finally. Everything is mounted up and tidied up all the way back from the frame rail, or from the fuel rail all the way back. I've got some heat shield on the lines there, since the exhaust is going to be running through there. Actually ran out. I'm going to run it on both of these as well for the transmission. I've got all of the wiring sorted over here. So the wiring comes down, and the way that these things are, these headers sit so tight to the engine and transmission. There's no way to run it on between the exhaust and the engine block there. So I kind of went out and around and I put some heat wrap on that. So that is all my wires going to my starter, and there's also a wire in there coming from the alternator that goes over to the battery. So those are in there. The zip ties hanging out are just a reminder that I need to cut those off and reattach those. I actually have stainless steel zip ties that I'm going to use to hold everything with heat wrap is going to be held on with a stainless zip tie. And again, these lines here are going to be wrapped with heat wrap. Apparently I didn't order enough. So Gonna do that, and then everything's kind of, you really can't see it, but you know, colored zip tie needs to be cut off. So everything is up there and ready to go. I've got my power line for my fuel pump in my all-time favorite, the corrugated split loom, which I actually hate this stuff, but the only reason I put it on there was to protect the wire from any rocks or anything that comes up. That's the only reason it's on there. I hate this stuff. That right there is the ground for the fuel pump. I need to put a terminal on the end there, drill a hole in the frame and attach that. We got the tank is actually out. It's sitting on the ground over there. I have got to touch up the cross member there, right here, where I ground it down to clearance for the tank. So I've got to put some paint on there. I started kind of going through the brake lines. I've got to go get my my brake line tool for the nuts there so that I don't strip anything out. I'm going to blow them out, clean them out, just make sure there's nothing in there. I did that with the fuel lines and the transmission lines, so they're good to go. So now you can see why I didn't film this, because it's all underneath the truck in nooks and crannies. The brake lines, I kind of started putting them back in, so they are kind of loosely up there on both sides, well, just these two here, so that I can kind of see how they're going to interact with all of the lines. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but I don't know. Somehow I managed to spend 4 hours under here, but I mean, I got a lot done. It just seems like it takes forever. I don't know what the deal is. Started kind of thinking about how I'm going to do this. Got some split loom on there just because the rest of the harness is in loom, so I'm going to go ahead and loom that. Put the park neutral safety switch back on, or actually the range switch, but I'm going to use it as a park neutral safety switch. Started tinkering with the shift linkage, and I don't know. I set this engine back as far as I possibly could, and the rod that comes with the low car kit, I don't think it's going to be long enough, so I'm going to have to figure out something there. And then I kind of started thinking about the output angle here on the transmission and what I need to do as far as shimming it up so that I can get my drive shaft made. I need to get that done. So just lots of kind of thinking and tinkering. So there wasn't a whole lot to record, so I am actually going to pick this video back up this week when I actually can do something. I'm going to install this coupler here. I can kind of show how that goes on. Kind of ground installed there for the core support. Just kind of little stuff. So I'm kind of knocking the list out. I don't know how I didn't manage to knock anything out on the list today, but not many things, that is. But anyway, I am going to pick back up later this week when I can actually spend some time and kind of show how I'm doing some of these things. All right, so I'm going to get ready to start drilling the hole for the fuel filler on this tank here. So what I've done is I've kind of painstakingly measured where the filler, the center line of the filler is on this plane here and this plane here. And I've actually referenced them to this bed bolt right here. So I've taken measurements every which way to get measurements in relation to this bed bolt here. And then what I did is I transfer them up here. Climb up here real quick. Transfer them up onto the bed itself. So within relation to this bed bolt right here. So it's not exact science, but this isn't, again, this doesn't have to be perfect. So what I've got here is it's 8 1/16 back and then 5 7/8 over. This probably vary from truck to truck depending on how you mount it, but that's kind of what I came up with. So now I am going to drill a pilot hole real quick and see where I'm at, make sure I'm perfectly centered, and get the hole saw out. All right, so I got the hole drilled here, pilot hole that is, and par for the course. Wouldn't be a normal day if things didn't go right. So after measuring that thing 3 times and checking my measurements 3 times, it was still off. I drilled a pilot hole here, just a tiny little, I think it's a 16th inch hole, big enough to fit that in there. And then checked where it was at on the cap, and it was off by 1/4 inch this way and 3/8 front to back. So what I did was I just drilled another hole at those measurements. And then real scientific-like, I put some paint on the end of a straw off of my brake clean and put some tape on top of the cap down below. Let's see if I can do this here. And push it through as straight up and down as I could. Touch it to the cap. Check the pattern on the cap. And sure enough, now right there is centered up on the top of the cap. So now the fun begins of actually using the hole saw. So fingers crossed that this actually works. All righty, here we go. Yo, moly, that was a job and a half. Well, it fought me, but it's in there, and it's perfectly round, and it's exactly where it needed to be. It is almost perfectly centered over the gas cap there, so perfect. Ended up cutting into just a tiny little bit of the bed support that runs across this way here, but no big deal. I'll throw some paint on those real quick, and I'm gonna get some edging, some rubber edging to put on there for now. Eventually I'm going to probably make a pop-up cap with the plug that came out of here so I can, push it down in magnetic release and it'll flip up. But for now, we got a hole. So on to the next project. All right, so I've been pretty busy since I cut the hole in the bed there. I have got the tank is reinstalled. All the lines are hooked up. All the power's hooked up. I've got, you can kind of see it peeking out right there, right next to the flashlight there. That is my rollover and vent, just kind of sticking out there. Actually, there was a hole in the frame there that worked out perfect for that. So I just kind of got it tucked out right there. All of the brake lines are attached and cleaned out. I'm going to finish up the brake lines tonight. Actually, that's what I'm going to work on next. I'm going to bench bleed the master and install the lines that go from the master to the proportioning valve and get everything cleaned out and bleed the whole system. The rear cover is installed. For some reason, my phone here is telling me that no SIM card's installed, but it's really not important right now. But anyway, the rear cover's installed, torqued down, no fluid in it yet. I do have all the fluids. I'm just going to put them all at once. Got the vent. You really can't see it, but it's right there. That's the vent for the rear end here. All the fuel lines are attached and run. The power, you can kind of see it right there, is attached as well. It runs all the way forward. I've got a ground for the fuel pump. I've got all of this here is wrapped in heat wrap. I did this earlier in this video, but I've got all the heat wrap in there. I just have not attached them yet. I was going to run the power for the battery cable down there, and I haven't done that yet. So to kind of route all these and kind of make it efficiently done. So yeah, so I've got a lot done. All the little piddly stuff is done. Knocking things off the list. Everything's torqued down on the rear end that I needed to do. The rear end is centered. I got the panhard bar length correct. I got the axle centered under the rear end. I've got it squared up with the truck. But yeah, just lots of piddly stuff. So today I'm going to actually get it back down on the ground down here and start working on the brakes and get the master off there and get it bench bled and start doing all that stuff. So the brakes are all bled. It took a little longer than I thought it would. I didn't really videotape it because I was doing it by myself, so I was constantly going back and forth, checking the fluid level, going to the back, making sure I was sucking fluid and not I didn't have a leak anywhere. So anyway, it took about an hour to bleed the brakes, get all the air out of the system. I got a firm pedal, so we're good to go there. So I'm anxious to see how they work. The proportioning valve is actually it's right in the middle. So the instructions say to back it all the way off and slowly, in a parking lot, just kind of keep hitting the brakes until you get lock up in the rear and then dial it back just a smidge. So I'll do that once it's running. Amazingly, only had one leak, and it was on the rear end where I did those NICOP lines on where it fits into the adapter that goes from hardline inverted flare to AN. I just didn't have it quite tight enough. So, it took like just an eighth of a turn and boom, problem solved. Stainless lines, they all seem to be fitting really well. No leaks on any of the stainless lines. I know a lot of people have problems with the stainless lines and getting them to seat correctly. I don't know. I didn't tighten them real tight. Didn't kung fu them or anything like that, but it works. So I'm excited. So the brakes are all done. I just got a box full of paper towels sitting below it just in case it leaks while I'm not here. I don't want it to tear up my powder coat and my paint down below. But you can check that off the list. So I was going to get going on some other stuff tonight, but it got kind of late doing this brake bleeding. So I'm going to go ahead and call it tonight. Just got little piddly stuff. Got to seal the oil pan, which I've been talking about doing for like weeks, but I just keep getting sidetracked. So oil pan, got to put the new rag joint in. And I think just fashion all my stuff on that side over there, all the heat stuff in the heat wrap, get that all sorted. Build an exhaust, and what else? Oh, get a drive shaft. I'm actually going to order a drive shaft this week. So now that I got a new motor mount for that, or the trans mount for that, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in, make sure my angles are good, and order a drive shaft. But that's about it. So again, I apologize for not videotaping a whole lot, but I was just kind of picking at it all week. Actually, the last 2 weeks, because I didn't get a video up last week, but just kind of picking at it when I had time, just doing little stuff here and there. Everything turns out really well. I actually don't know if I've put this intake in the video yet, but it's all crinkle coated. So it looks really good, and it kind of has, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but I did some little trickery here. I got a buddy who owns a sign shop, and it's not really showing up on the, kind of, but I'll throw a picture up. But what I did was actually put a vinyl sticker down below the crinkle paint. It's actually got a base coat of the, excuse me, the low gloss black, and then I put the sticker, and then I did the wrinkle paint. And what it did, it kind of gave it a little slight embossment on there. So you can kind of see it. It's the Rusty Wrenches logo. And I did that black paint below so that if this thing gets hot and this sticker starts peeling, I can pull the stickers off and it'll show, it'll have a base coat below. So it'll be just kind of that matte black. So it's going to look really cool. But the intake's done. It's in. Everything fit exactly like I thought it would. It turned out really well. But anyway, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and call it. Appreciate everybody watching. Sorry for not putting a video up last week. It's just kind of been crazy. There wasn't a whole lot to show. Just been kind of piddling. But we're getting there. Not much left on the to-do list. So anyway, as always, please like and subscribe if you'd like to. Share it. Comment below. Love to hear from you guys. Had some pretty good questions and comments, and actually pretty good ideas. So anyway, appreciate everybody watching, and we will see you next time.